Captain Jake Morrison sat in his chair on the bridge of the UES Resilience and watched the alien delegates arguing. He had been doing this for 2 months now. The same arguments, the same insults, the same dismissive looks whenever he or any other human tried to speak. The Exetherian ambassador, a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms, waved one of his hands in the air. "These creatures," he said, pointing at Jake, "are nothing but violent apes. They have barely learned to speak properly. How can we trust them with complex trade agreements?" Jake kept his face calm. He had learned to do this over the years. Inside, he felt his anger growing, but he pushed it down. Lieutenant Amy Carter, who sat at the communication station behind him, looked at him with concern. She could see the tension in his shoulders. "Ambassador," Jake said slowly, "humanity has honored every agreement we have made. We have never broken our word." The Exetherian laughed. It was a harsh sound. "Words mean nothing. You come from a death world. Violence is all you understand." Amy typed something on her console. The translation came through perfectly, as it always did. The humans had been dealing with alien languages for 50 years now. They understood everything perfectly. But the aliens still treated them like children who had just learned to count. Commander Ben Hayes, the head of security, walked onto the bridge. His face was dark with anger. Jake looked at him and raised an eyebrow. Ben shook his head slightly. He would wait until the meeting was over. The Zelthani Consortium representative spoke up. She was shorter than the Exetherian, with green scales and large yellow eyes. "We have decided to claim the Earth's moon for mining operations. The resources there will benefit the entire galaxy." Jake stood up slowly. "That is Earth territory. You cannot simply take it." "Earth territory." The Zelthani laughed. "You are newcomers. You have no real claim to anything. The Galactic Council will support our decision." Around the table, the other alien species nodded. The blue-skinned Antarans, the tall Kree with their multiple eyes, the blob-like Saphirians. They all looked at the humans like they were looking at pets that had tried to join a conversation. Amy's hands clenched into fists. She had been listening to this for years. She had watched her species be treated like children while they helped build hospitals, shared medical knowledge, and saved alien lives without asking for anything in return. Ben cleared his throat. Jake turned to him. "Sir, I have a report from the outer colonies." "It can wait," Jake said. "No, sir, I don't think it can." Jake saw something in Ben's eyes that made his stomach tight. He nodded. "Excuse us for a moment." Ben handed him a datapad. Jake read it quickly. His face went pale, then red with anger. Amy watched him and felt scared. She had never seen Captain Morrison look like that. "What is it?" she whispered. Jake looked up at the alien delegates. They were still talking among themselves, ignoring the humans completely. "The Korak hit 3 of our colonies last week. Took 5,000 people as slaves." Amy's mouth fell open. Did the council respond? Ben shook his head. "They said Deathworlders can handle themselves. They refused to help." Jake looked at the datapad again. Names scrolled by. Families torn apart. Children taken from their parents. And the galactic community did nothing because humans were supposed to be strong enough to fight back. He looked at Amy, then at Ben. Both of them watched him carefully. For 50 years, humanity had been patient. They had been polite. They had followed the rules and tried to be good galactic citizens. Jake thought about his daughter, who lived on one of the colonies. He thought about all the times he had swallowed his pride and anger to maintain peace. He thought about how the aliens treated his species like dangerous animals that needed to be managed. "Sir," Amy asked softly. Jake handed the datapad back to Ben. His voice was quiet when he spoke, but there was something cold in it that neither of them had heard before. "Call Admiral Park. Tell her it's time for an emergency coalition meeting." The age of being nice was over. Admiral Lisa Park walked into the meeting room on Mars. The space was large enough to hold representatives from every human colony and military base. She had called this meeting with one simple message: we need to talk. Now. The room was full. Colony governors sat next to military commanders. Scientists talked quietly with intelligence officers. Dr. Kevin Wright from the Xenobiology Department had files spread across his table. General Chris Blake stood near the main screen, his arms crossed. Lisa took her place at the front of the room. Everyone went quiet. "You all know why we're here," she said. "The Korak took 5,000 of our people. The Council did nothing. The Zelthani want our moon. And every day they treat us like animals." She pressed a button. The screen showed pictures from the attacked colonies, burned buildings, empty streets, families crying. "This is Colony 7 after the Korak raid," Lisa continued. "They took children from their beds. They took parents from their homes. And when we asked for help, the Council said we could handle it ourselves." A colony governor stood up. His name was Robert Chen, and his own colony had been threatened just last month. "Admiral, what are our options? We've tried diplomacy for 50 years. Lisa nodded to Dr. Wright. He stood up and adjusted his glasses. Kevin had been studying alien species since first contact. He knew more about them than they thought he did. "We've been watching them," Kevin said. "For 50 years, we've been learning everything about them. Their weaknesses, their fears, their technology. They think we're too stupid to understand, so they've been careless around us." He pressed a button on his remote. The screen changed to show biological data about different alien species. "The Hexatherians are strong, but they can't handle Earth's gravity for long periods. The Zelthani have excellent technology, but their reaction time is slower than ours. The Korak are bigger than us, but they get tired faster." A military officer spoke up. "What about their weapons?" Kevin smiled. It was not a nice smile. "We've been creating countermeasures for every weapon system in the galaxy. They shared their technology with us, thinking we couldn't understand it. They were wrong." General Blake stepped forward. "I've been designing something called Operation Mirror. The idea is simple. We show them exactly what Deathworlders can do when we stop being polite." The room stirred. People leaned forward in their seats. "For 50 years, Blake continued, we've been the nice guys. We've followed their rules. We've been patient when they insulted us. We've been helpful when they needed us. And they think that makes us weak." Lisa stood up again. "They're about to learn the difference between being nice and being unable to fight. We're going to respond to every insult, every attack, every dismissal with the full weight of human military power." Dr. Wright added more information. "We have detailed psychological profiles on every species in the Council. We know what scares them. We know how they think. And we know they've never faced an enemy like us." A young officer raised her hand. "What about the colonies that were attacked?" Blake's face hardened. "We're going to get our people back, every single one of them. And we're going to make sure this never happens again." Lisa looked around the room. She saw anger in every face, but she also saw determination. These were people who had been pushed too far. "I'm calling for a vote," she said. "All in favor of Operation Mirror." Every hand in the room went up. Not one person disagreed. "Then it's decided," Lisa said. "Send messages to every human ship, every colony, every base. The message is simple. We tried being nice. We tried following their rules. We tried being good galactic citizens. That ends today." She paused and looked at each person in the room. "It's time to remind the galaxy why Earth is called a death world, and why Deathworlders should never be underestimated." The meeting ended with 100% agreement. For the first time in 50 years, humanity would fight back with everything they had. The galaxy was about to learn what humans were really capable of. Captain Emma Stone sat in the command chair of the UEA's Predator. Her ship was one of 20 that had been modified in secret over the past 10 years. The Korak slavers thought they knew human ships. They were wrong. "Target spotted, Captain," said her navigator. 3 Korak vessels, heading toward the mining colony on Kepler Prime. Emma smiled. The Korak had been hitting human colonies for months. They thought humans were easy prey. Today, they would learn differently. "Begin the hunt," she ordered. The Predator moved silently through space. The Korak ships were larger and had bigger guns, but they were slow and loud. Emma had studied wolves on Earth before joining the military. Pack hunters. That was what humans were about to become. On board the second ship, Sergeant Tony Rivers checked his equipment one more time. His unit had trained for this mission for years. The Korak were tough fighters, but they had one weakness. They got tired quickly. "Remember the plan," Tony told his team over the radio. "We don't stop. We don't rest. We keep pushing until they break." The Korak ships detected the human vessels and opened fire. Their weapons were powerful, designed to destroy planets. But Emma's ships were faster. They moved like sharks, attacking from different angles. "All ships, pattern Alpha," Emma commanded. The 20 human ships split into 5 groups of 4. Each group attacked a different part of the Korak formation. Commander Rachel Ford sat at her computer console on the command ship. While the others fought in space, she had a different job. The Korak used a central computer network to coordinate their fleets. For years, humans had pretended to struggle with alien technology. Rachel had been secretly learning how their systems worked. "I'm in," she announced. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. The Korak had never encrypted their communications properly. They thought humans were too primitive to hack their systems. Rachel smiled as she began to turn their own technology against them. Ship weapons stopped working. Navigation systems failed. Communication between vessels cut out completely. Back in space, Emma watched the Korak ships stumble around like blind animals. "Now we move in for the kill," she said. The human ships closed in. But instead of destroying the Korak vessels, they did something unexpected. They separated each ship from the fleet and began following them. On the Korak flagship, Captain Vorth was confused. The human ships were not trying to destroy them. They were just following. For hours, then days. "Why don't they attack?" his second officer asked. Vorth didn't know. The Korak were used to quick fights, big battles that ended fast. But the humans just kept following, never attacking, never leaving. Just there. Tony Rivers and his team boarded the first Korak ship after 3 days. The aliens were exhausted. They had not slept because they thought the humans would attack at any moment. "Surrender," Tony said in their language. The Korak captain looked at him with tired eyes. "How long will you follow us?" the captain asked. Tony smiled. "Forever, if we have to. Humans don't get tired like you do. We can hunt for weeks without stopping." The Korak captain's shoulders sagged. His species were fighters, but they were not hunters. They had never faced an enemy who could chase them until they collapsed from exhaustion. "We surrender," he said quietly. Emma received the message and nodded. 1 Korak fleet down. Many more to go. Rachel continued her work, shutting down Korak systems across the galaxy. She had access to their entire network now. Every ship, every base, every communication. "Man," her assistant said, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 more Korak fleets." Rachel laughed. "Tell them they can surrender to the nearest human ship. But first, they need to return every human they've taken as slaves." Within a week, the Korak Empire's military was in chaos. They had never fought an enemy like this. Humans didn't just win battles. They hunted their enemies like predators hunting prey. The galaxy was starting to understand what Deathworlders really meant. Admiral Thextus of the Zelthani Consortium stood on his command ship and smiled. The mining fleet was almost at Earth's moon. 200 ships carrying the most advanced drilling equipment in the galaxy. The humans would watch helplessly as the Zelthani took their precious natural satellite. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we've lost contact with Mining Group 7. Thextus frowned. Mechanical problems. Unknown, sir. They just stopped transmitting. 20 light minutes away, Captain Alex Turner watched the Zelthani ships through his stealth vessel's sensors. The UES Ghost had been following the mining fleet for 3 days. The aliens had no idea humans had developed true cloaking technology. Target the lead mining ship. Alex whispered to his crew. Remember, we disable, not destroy. We want them to tell their story. The Ghost's weapons were different from standard human military equipment. These were tools of precision. While the Zelthani used massive energy weapons to blast through asteroids, humans had learned subtlety. Engineer Paula Collins was already aboard the first Zelthani mining ship. She had been transported over during their sleep cycle. The aliens never thought to check for human life signs because they believed human stealth technology was inferior. Paula moved through the ship's corridors like a shadow. She knew exactly where to go. For years, humans had been given tours of Zelthani mining equipment. The aliens had shown off their technology, proud of their superior engineering. They never noticed that the humans were memorizing every detail. She reached the main power distribution center. Paula smiled as she began her work. The Zelthani had designed their ships to be efficient, but they had never considered sabotage from within. On the Zelthani command ship, more reports came in. Mining Group 3 has lost power. Mining Group 12 reports their drilling equipment has malfunctioned. Sir, something is wrong with our asteroid field sensors. Admiral Thextus stood up. How is this possible? Our ships are the most advanced in the galaxy. His intelligence officer, a nervous young Zelthani named Rexel, looked at his screen with confusion. Sir, our equipment isn't broken. Someone is turning it against us. Captain Alex brought his ship closer. The Zelthani still couldn't see him, but he could watch everything they did. He opened a communication channel. Admiral Thextus, Alex said in perfect Zelthani language. This is Captain Turner of the Human Defense Force. The alien bridge went silent. Thextus looked around wildly, trying to find the source of the voice. Where are you? He demanded. Close enough, Alex replied. I'm calling to inform you that this is human territory. You are not welcome here. Your primitive sensors can't even detect our ships. Thextus laughed. What can you possibly do to stop us? That's when Paula triggered her traps. Throughout the asteroid field, Zelthani mining equipment came alive. But instead of drilling into rocks, the machinery began attacking Zelthani ships. Drilling beams designed to cut through asteroids turned on their own vessels. Mining robots programmed by Paula started dismantling ships from the inside. What is happening? Thextus screamed. Paula's voice came through the ship's communication system. Hello, Admiral. I'm Engineer Collins. I've been aboard your ship for 2 days. Your security is terrible. Impossible. Our sensors would have detected you. Paula laughed. Your sensors. The ones that can't tell the difference between a rock and a human. We've been studying your technology for 50 years. We know it better than you do. More mining ships reported problems. Some lost power. Others found their own equipment attacking them. The carefully planned mining operation was turning into chaos. Alex decided to reveal his ship. The Ghost's cloak faded, and suddenly the Zelthani could see a human vessel right next to their flagship. You see, Alex explained calmly, you thought we were too stupid to understand your stealth technology. Actually, we improved it. Our cloaking is so good that we've been watching you for years without you knowing. Thextus stared at the human ship. It looked small compared to his massive vessels, but somehow it had been invisible until now. Paula continued her work, turning more Zelthani equipment against itself. The Admiral realized the truth. The humans hadn't been struggling with alien technology. They had been learning it, improving it, and preparing for this moment. Recall the fleet, he ordered quietly. The Zelthani mining operation retreated, leaving Earth's moon untouched. The humans had shown them that sometimes the best defense was knowing your enemy better than they knew themselves. News traveled fast across the galaxy. In the Titherian capital, Emperor Zolthan called an emergency meeting of his war council. The reports seemed impossible. 20 Korek fleets have surrendered, General Vaxton reported. The humans didn't destroy them. They just hunted them until they gave up. And the Zelthani? The Emperor asked. Their mining fleet retreated from Earth space. They say the humans turned their own equipment against them. Emperor Zolthan laughed, but it sounded nervous. These are lies. Humans are primitive. Their weapons are simple. Their tactics are basic. Colonel Nathan Brooks smiled as he listened to the conversation. He was standing in the shadows of the Exitherian throne room, invisible to their sensors. Human stealth technology had improved far beyond what any alien species knew. The Exitherians had always been proud of their tactical superiority. They planned every battle with mathematical precision. They never left anything to chance. They certainly never expected an enemy to appear in their most secure room. "Hello, Your Majesty," Nathan said, stepping out of the shadows. The Exitherian guards raised their weapons, but Nathan wasn't alone. 20 human soldiers appeared around the room. Having been there the entire time, their weapons were already aimed. "How did you get here?" Emperor Zolthan demanded. "We've been here for hours," Nathan replied calmly. "Your security didn't detect us because you designed it to look for Scytherian threats. You never considered what humans could do." General Vaxton tried to move toward a panic button, but found a human soldier already standing next to it. "I wouldn't," the soldier said politely. Nathan walked closer to the throne. "We've had teams on Cytheria for years. Watching, learning, planning. You see, while you thought we were too stupid to understand your tactics, we were actually studying them." The Emperor's forearms trembled slightly. "What do you want?" "We want you to understand something," Nathan said. "You call our tactics barbaric. You laugh at our hit-and-run strategies. But those tactics come from millions of years of evolution on a death world." He pressed a button on his communicator. Images appeared in the air, showing Cytherian military bases. But these weren't normal surveillance pictures. They showed human teams moving undetected through the facilities. "Your mathematical precision makes you predictable," Nathan continued. "You always do exactly what your computers tell you to do. Humans learn to be unpredictable because our planet tried to kill us every day. On the planet's surface, more human teams were causing chaos. Cytherian patrols found their vehicles sabotaged in ways that made no sense. Supply lines were disrupted by attacks that came from everywhere and nowhere. Ambassador Helen Davis walked into the Galactic Council chambers and took her seat. For the first time in 50 years, every alien delegate was paying attention to the human representative. "Esteemed colleagues," Helen began, "it seems there's been some confusion about human capabilities." The Antarian delegate spoke up. "Your species is engaging in acts of war across the galaxy." Helen smiled. "We're responding to acts of war that have been committed against us. The Korek enslaved our people. The Zelthani tried to steal our territory. And all of you supported these actions. We didn't know humans were capable of this," the Kree representative admitted. "That was your mistake," Helen replied. "You assumed that because we chose peace, we were incapable of war." Dr. Steve Miller appeared on the screen behind Helen. He had been working in secret for decades, developing technologies that surpassed anything in the galactic database. "We've been reverse engineering every piece of technology you've shared with us," he explained. "While you thought we were struggling to understand basic concepts, we were actually improving your designs." The screen showed blueprints of weapons and ships that were clearly more advanced than anything the Council species possessed. "The question," Helen continued, "is what happens now. We've proven that humans are not the weak species you thought we were. We've shown that Deathworlders can be far more dangerous than you imagined." The Council chamber was completely silent. "So," Helen said, standing up, Would you like to continue treating us as children, or would you prefer to negotiate as equals? Emperor Zolthan, watching through a communication link, finally understood. The humans had never been trying to impress the galaxy with their strength. They had been giving everyone a chance to be civilized. That chance was over. The age of underestimating Deathworlders had ended, and every species in the galaxy was beginning to realize what that meant. The Korak Empire had ruled for 3,000 years. They had built their power by enslaving weaker species. Their ships were the biggest in the galaxy. Their warriors were the strongest. But strength meant nothing when facing an enemy who fought like no one else. General Ryan Clark stood on the bridge of the UES Liberator, watching the Korak homeworld grow larger on the screen. Behind him, a fleet of human ships prepared for the final assault. But this wasn't going to be a normal battle. "Captain Adams, are the freed slaves ready?" Ryan asked. Captain Lucy Adams nodded. "All former slaves have been armed and trained. They're eager to help." The assault began differently than any attack in galactic history. Instead of bombarding the planet, human ships landed in strategic locations. Small teams spread across the surface, moving like ghosts through Korak cities. On the surface, Ryan met with Jackster, a former slave who had been freed from a Korak mining world. Jackster was a Brynthan, a species the Korak had enslaved for centuries. "Your people taught us something important," Jackster told Ryan. "You showed us that strength isn't just about size or weapons. It's about never giving up." Ryan smiled. "That's what makes humans dangerous. We don't know when to quit." The Korak military tried to respond, but they found their own tactics being used against them. Human teams had studied how the Korak fought. They knew every formation, every strategy, every weakness. Emperor Gruthek, the largest and strongest Korak in history, watched his empire crumble from his palace. His generals brought report after report of impossible defeats. "How can they be everywhere at once?" he roared. "They're not fighting like soldiers," one general reported. "They're fighting like hunters. They separate our forces, then destroy us piece by piece." What the Korak didn't understand was that humans had been training the freed slaves for years. Every species the Korak had enslaved now knew how to fight back, and they all wanted revenge. Lucy Adams coordinated the liberation efforts from orbit. As each slave world was freed, more species joined the fight against their former masters. The Korak had made enemies of dozens of species. Now those enemies were all working together. "Sir," her communications officer reported, "Emperor Gruthek is requesting a meeting." Ryan was surprised. The Korak Emperor had never spoken to any human before. They considered humans too weak to acknowledge. "Put him through," Ryan ordered. The screen showed Emperor Gruthek in his throne room. The massive alien looked tired and defeated. Behind him, Ryan could see smoke rising from his capital city. "Human," Gruthek said slowly, "I underestimated your species." "Yes, you did," Ryan replied simply. "Your warriors fight without honor. You use tricks and deception." Ryan's expression hardened. "You enslaved children. You destroyed families. You tortured innocents for profit, and you lecture us about honor." Gruthek was quiet for a long moment. The sound of explosions echoed in the background. "What do you want?" he finally asked. "Every slave returned. Every slave world freed. Full reparations to every species you've harmed. And your empire dissolved. That would be the end of the Korak Empire." "Your empire ended the moment you took the first human colony," Ryan said. "You just didn't know it yet." Gruthek looked at the human general on his screen. This small creature from a distant world had brought down an empire that had lasted millennia. "If I agree to your terms, will you show mercy?" Ryan considered this. Around the galaxy, millions of beings were suffering because of Korak cruelty. But he also knew that mercy was what separated humans from species like the Korak. "Yes," he said finally. "Surrender now, and your people will be treated fairly. Continue fighting, and we'll use every lesson we learned from hunting you to finish this war." Emperor Gruthak looked at his advisors. They all nodded slowly. There was no choice. "I surrender," he said quietly. The Korak Empire surrenders unconditionally. The most powerful military empire in the galaxy had fallen, not to superior weapons or larger armies, but to humans who refused to let evil go unpunished. The liberated slaves cheered as the news spread. After centuries of suffering, they were finally free, and they had the Deathworlders to thank for it. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in their seats, watching as Ambassador Helen Davis walked to the center of the room. Behind her, Admiral Jake Morrison and General Chris Blake stood at attention. For the first time in galactic history, the humans were not sitting in the observer section. They had been given a permanent seat at the main council table, a seat with veto power. Chancellor Yorthek of the High Council spoke first. His voice was much less confident than before. "Ambassador Davis, the Council recognizes the new status of Earth and its colonies." Helen nodded politely. "Thank you, Chancellor. We appreciate that recognition. Now let's discuss the new rules." She activated a holographic display that showed data from across the galaxy. Battle reports, surrender documents, and lists of freed worlds appeared in the air. "The age of picking on Deathworld species is over," Helen declared. "Any aggression against Earth, its colonies, or any other Deathworld species will be met with immediate military response." The Antarian delegate raised a tentacle. "Ambassador, surely we can negotiate." "There is no negotiation," Admiral Morrison interrupted, stepping forward. "For 50 years, we negotiated. We were patient. We followed your rules. And you thanked us by allowing our people to be enslaved and our territory to be stolen." General Blake added, "Every species in this chamber supported actions against humanity. You voted to let the Korak take our people. You agreed to let the Zelthani steal our moon. That ends now." Chancellor Yorthak looked uncomfortable. "What exactly are you demanding?" Helen smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. "We're not demanding anything. We're informing you of how things will work from now on." She pressed a button, and the display changed to show human military bases appearing throughout the galaxy. Human defense stations are being established in every sector. Any species that attacks a death world will have to answer to us. The Kree delegate spoke up nervously. "You're talking about policing the entire galaxy." "Someone has to," Helen replied. "You've proven that you can't police yourselves." Admiral Morrison stepped forward again. "Let me make something very clear. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We don't want your territories or your resources. We just want to be left alone. But if you threaten us or any other peaceful species, we will respond." Dr. Steve Miller appeared on screen from his laboratory. "We've also decided to share some of our technological advances, but only with species that prove they can use them responsibly." The display showed blueprints for medical technology that could cure diseases affecting multiple species, but it also showed weapons that were clearly more advanced than anything the Council had seen. "The choice is yours," Helen continued. "Work with us to create a truly peaceful galaxy, or continue your old ways and face the consequences." Chancellor Yorthak looked around the chamber. The other delegates were whispering among themselves. Fear was obvious in many eyes. "What about reparations?" he asked quietly. "Already being paid," General Blake answered. "The Korak Empire has agreed to compensate every species they enslaved. The Zelthani will provide resources to help rebuild the colonies they attacked. And this council will establish a fund to help all Deathworld species develop their defenses." The ex-Aetherian representative, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. "You've completely changed the balance of power in the galaxy." Helen nodded. "Yes, we have. And we'll do it again if necessary." Jake Morrison walked to the center of the room. "I want everyone here to understand something. Humans don't hate you. We don't want to destroy you. But we will never again allow anyone to treat us or any other species the way you treated us. He looked around the chamber, making eye contact with each delegate. You called us Deathworlders, like it was an insult. You forgot what that really means. We survived on a planet that tried to kill us every day. We learned to work together, to never give up, and to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Helen concluded the session with a simple statement. The galaxy has new rules now. Learn them, follow them, or face the consequences. As the session ended, the delegates filed out quietly. The age of galactic bullying was over. The Deathworlders were in charge now, and everyone knew it. 20 years had passed since the day humans decided to stop being nice. The galaxy was a different place now. Jake Morrison, now an old man with gray hair, walked slowly through the human military academy on Mars. Young cadets from dozens of species trained together in the courtyards. Humans taught alongside Brinthon, Antarians, and even some Cytherians. The academy had become the most respected military school in the galaxy. Admiral Morrison called a young Zelthani cadet named Rextal. Could you tell us the story again? Jake smiled. He had told this story many times, but the young ones never got tired of hearing it. Which story? He asked, though he knew exactly what Rextal meant. The day humans stopped being nice, said another cadet, this one a Korak named Thukril. Jake sat down on a bench. The cadets gathered around him in a circle. Some of them were from species that had once been enemies of humanity. Now they were all friends. I was young then, Jake began. Not much older than you are now. We had been trying to be good galactic citizens for 50 years. We followed every rule. We helped when others needed it. We share our knowledge freely. A human cadet named Tom raised his hand. Why didn't the other species appreciate that? Because they thought kindness meant weakness, Jake replied. They forgot that we came from a death world. They forgot that choosing to be peaceful doesn't mean you can't fight. He stood up and walked to a window that looked out over the training grounds. Ships from every human world and dozens of alien species flew in formation overhead. When the Korak took our people, when the Zelthani tried to steal our moon, when the Council refused to help us, we realized something important. What was that, sir? Asked Thukril, the young Korak. That bullies only understand one language, Jake said. Strength. Not the kind of strength that hurts innocent people, but the kind that protects them. Commander Sarah Thompson walked up to the group. She was younger than Jake, but had been teaching at the academy for 5 years. The alien cadets respected her as much as the human ones. Admiral, she said with a smile, you're telling our story again. Jake laughed. They asked, you know I can't refuse a curious mind. Sarah looked at the young faces around them. You know, the most important lesson isn't about the fighting. It's about what happened after. She gestured to the mixed group of cadets. 20 years ago, our species were enemies. Today, you train together, learn together, and protect the galaxy together. Rextal, the Zelthani cadet, spoke up. My grandmother was on one of the mining ships that tried to take Earth's moon. She said the humans could have destroyed them all, but they chose mercy instead. That's the real lesson, Jake said. Anyone can choose violence. It takes wisdom to know when to stop. A small Kree cadet, barely 10 years old in human terms, tugged on Jake's sleeve. Admiral, my parents say the galaxy is safer now. Is that true? Jake knelt down to look the child in the eyes. Yes, little one, it is. And do you know why? Because the Deathworlders protect everyone. Because everyone protects everyone. Sarah corrected gently. Humans just reminded the galaxy how to do it right. In the distance, a patrol of mixed-species ships returned from a mission. They had been stopping pirates near the outer rim. Peace didn't maintain itself, but now all the civilized species worked together to preserve it. Jake watched the ships land and smiled. You see, the galaxy learned something that day. Being nice isn't the same as being weak, and sometimes you have to show people the difference. As evening fell on Mars, Alien children across the galaxy were being told bedtime stories. Stories about the day the quiet ones finally had enough. Stories about the moment the galaxy learned that patience has limits. And somewhere in the peaceful night, parents of every species looked at the stars and were grateful that the Deathworlders had chosen to be the guardians of them all. The legend lived on, passed from generation to generation. The day humanity stopped being nice and started being honest about what they could do. The day the galaxy learned to fear the anger of a peaceful people, and everyone slept better knowing that the Deathworlders were watching over them.